This is the first part of session 61. Let's talk more about pyramids. I'm just kidding. Let's get into balancing today. Session 61 is relatively short, but it's going to be broken down into two parts because there is some really deep information here that we can get into. And I guess this is the type of dialogue or conversation or topics that I enjoy because it builds upon a philosophy that we have been developing and assimilating with the law of one, as opposed to certain things that are only brushing the surface of the things that we can talk about in terms of soul evolution, which is really my favorite topic, and the realization of the self within the raw material. And so we have the last question that I'll cover today will be that substantial one, which is going to be about balancing. But before we get into that, we're going to cover just the rest of the session, the beginning of the session, and we're moving away from pyramids if you didn't notice at the beginning. Just a small joke. We'll be back to pyramids in session 66, I think, but that'll be all. So we get a break from that. Now, the first question I cover is a little bit more than the usual answer of how the instrument's condition is. So I included it. Don says, could you give me an indication of the instrument's condition? Ross says, this instrument's vital energies are improving. The physical complex distortions are quite marked at this space-time, and there is a decrease in physical complex energies. So why did I include this here? Because, well, first of all, there is more than the information that they usually say. It's as previously stated, but also because it's related to some of the questions, at least two questions that are here and that will become again relevant in session 64. And it's about the physical complex that is Carla, or the physical energies. There is a decrease in physical complex energies. I will get to that and it'll make more sense there, but all we need to know here is that the vital energies are improving. Now, vital energies to me are that the energies of willingness to, it's not even the willingness to live or not, but just what moves you to live. You know, what's that that desire to live, and that is present here in our space-time, but also resides more in our metaphysical sense of being, our mind, and that's improving. And then the physical complex distortions are quite marked at the space-time. I don't know what it means that they're quite marked, and there is a decrease in physical complex energies. So the physical distortions might be the arthritis and all the other conditions that Carla had, so they're quite marked at the space-time, and there is a decrease in physical complex energies. We'll get to the physical complex energies in a little bit, but and why I also included this question. But in question 2, Don says, is there anything in particular that the instrument could do to improve the physical condition? And Ross says, this is what starts the first topic here. The instrument has two factors affecting its bodily distortions. This is in common with all those which, by seniority of vibration, have reached the green ray level of vibratory consciousness complexes. The first is the given instreamings which vary from cycle to cycle in predictable manner. In this particular entity, the cyclical complexes at this space-time nexus are not favorable for the physical energy levels. And bear that in mind for the next question. I'll finish reading here. Ra says, the second ramification of condition is that which we might call the degree of mental efficiency in use of catalysts provided for the learning of program lessons in particular, and the lessons of love in general. This instrument, unlike some entities, has some further distortion due to the use of pre-incarnative conditions. So, two things that are affecting Carla at this point. And the first one is, well, they say this isn't common. They don't say the first one here, but this isn't common with all those which by seniority of vibration have reached the green ray level of vibratory consciousness complexes. So, I'm not sure if the seniority of vibration includes wanderers who have been here for a while, which is the case with Carla, or if it only talks about those who are third density, first time third density evolving entities and have reached that level of active, because they say, yeah, I'm not sure how the harvest could discriminate from one and the other. And let me just recap for you what seniority of vibration is. Seniority of vibration means that you will be able to incarnate here if you have a heart that is almost fully activated, or at least harvestable, reaching those possible harvestability vibrations. And so this is in contrast with those who, let's say, animals who are graduating to third density. They would need normally a lot more of experience and catalysts for them to activate all their energy centers in third density or sub energy centers, and so move on to fourth density. So there is a seniority by vibration, meaning that at this point of the harvest, those who have more activated their third and fourth chakra, then they are able to incarnate here. So that's what Ra means there. And yeah, have reached the green ray level of vibratory consciousness complexes. So Carla has this in common with them. Obviously, she's a wanderer, and I think she's sixth density. Could be wrong, but I think she's sixth density. The first is the given in streamings, which vary from cycle to cycle in predictable manner. We'll talk about this in question 3. And in this particular part of Carla's cycles, this was not favorable for the physical energy levels. I have a question that I don't know if any of you can answer, but there must be an answer, and I don't have it. But we'll get to that. Ra finishes and says the second ramification of condition is that which we might call the degree of mental efficiency in use of catalysts provided by the learning of program lessons. Okay, so all of this is basically how you have used catalyst. So how Carla has used catalyst, and this is the other thing that was affecting her physical complex. In particular, the lessons of love, which we will explore as well later on in this video. This is in general, of course, all the lessons of love. The instrument, unlike some entities, has some further distortion due to the use of pre-incarnative conditions, which, as far as I know, admittedly Carla has or announced that all of her issues seem to be of the pre-incarnative choices, meaning her physical discomforts and illness and all of that. She wrote a lot about that, and she talked a lot about that, how her body was basically crippled. She was in Social Security for a while, at a young age, I might add. So this is all, part of those distortions that are pre-incarnative and that generate these conditions that she had. So far so good. we have Carla. She has the pre-incarnative conditions. She has the seniority by vibration that is in common with everybody else, of enough hard activated, and I believe that would have to be the catalyst that we're processing, and then the cycles. So let's get into the cycles now, because Don is interested and says the second ramification of condition. Oh, that's not done. This is done. Question 3, Don says, can you expand on what you meant by the cycling in streamings of energy? And so Ra says there are 4 types of cycles, which are those given in the moment of entry into incarnation. There are, in addition, more cosmic and less regularized importance, which, from time to time, affect a sensitized mind-body-spirit complex. The 4 rhythms are, to some extent, known among your peoples and are called biorhythms. There is a 4th cycle, which we may call the cycle of gateway of magic, of the adept, or of the spirit. This is a cycle which is completed in approximately 18 of your diurnal cycles. The cosmic patterns are also a function of the moment of incarnative entrance and have to do with your satellite you call the moon, your planets of this galaxy, the galactic sun, and in some cases the in-streamings from the major galactic points of energy flow. Oof. Okay. So, we have a lot of cycles going on here. What are they? So, this is funny. Why would Ra say there is a 4th cycle when they mentioned before? Sometimes I don't understand Ra. Shocking, right? But I'll tell you why. First, they say that there are 4 types, okay? I think Ra has issues counting, as we all know. They only count up to 1. So, there are 4 types of cycles, which are those given at the moment of entry into incarnation. I think this is further explored, or deeply explored more in session 64, I think, if I remember correctly, when Don asks about these cycles in specificity. So, when we are born, all these cycles start. Okay, so the beginning of all these cycles obviously start with your moment of entry when you are born, the day you're born. And so, there are, in addition, more cosmic and less regularized inpourings which, from time to time, affect the sensitized mind-body-spirit complex. So, I don't know what these are, unless they are what Ra said at the end. The cosmic patterns are also a function of the moment of incarnative entrance and have to do with your satellite you call the moon, your planets of this galaxy. So there's a lot of things influencing us. I will bring this to a happy closure, because if you're like me, when I hear that there is a lot of stuff that is affecting me, then I immediately think that I need to be aware of those things. You know, that's just the natural human response. And, you know, Ra is talking about reality here because these things are real. And so I will just bring it to a more human level at the end of this. So, there are 4 cycles, okay? There are, in addition, more cosmic and less regularized inpourings, which, from time to time, affect a sensitized mind-body-spirit complex. We don't know what that is. The 4 rhythms are, to some extent, known among your peoples and are called biorhythms. I am not aware but of just one of them, or at least have been aware of one of them, and that's the emotional one. And so there is a 4th cycle. You see why I say that I don't understand Ra? Because they said that there are 4 cycles at the beginning of the answer. Then they say the 4 rhythms are known to your people. And then they say that there is a 4th cycle. Well, maybe the 4th cycle you already mentioned. I don't know. Which may be called the gateway of magic or the adept. This is just the spiritual cycle. So let's just call it spiritual or adepthood. This is a cycle which is completed in approximately 18 of your diurnal cycles. So, the cosmic patterns are also a function of the moment of incarnative entrance and have to do with your satellites you call the moon. This is where I get confused, and I know this is the emotional cycle because it's 28 days. So is it because the moon is full? I don't think so, because it has to do with your incarnative moment, the day you were born. And I don't know if they are referring here to the cosmic patterns. So in all honesty, I don't know how to track all, like, what influences which cycle, but I do know the cycles of which I'll talk about. So they do mention the moon, then the planets of the galaxy, the galactic sun, which is in essence the central or the center of the galaxy, and in some cases the in-streamings from the major galactic points of energy flow. So in essence, we just have a lot of influences, and the cycles themselves are 4. And again, we will explore this in session 64, but I'll just leave you with the cycles themselves. There is the physical, the emotional, the intelligence, and then there is the adept or magical, which is the one that Ra is referring here. I think they're all on different times, meaning that, for example, this is 18, the spirit one or adept one is 18, the emotional is 28, the physical I believe is 33, and I forget what the intelligence, maybe it's 23, 28, 33, and 18, yes. So spirit 18, emotional 28, physical 33, and then the intelligence is 23. They all start at the beginning of your birth. So when you're born, it doesn't matter the time. Ra said that the time is so irrelevant that what really matters is the day itself, because it's a cycle. So you can dispense from the specificity, although I'm sure that it has an effect, but probably not as noticeable as the overall average of the day. And so if you're interested, of course I'm going to leave in the description a link so you can go check a calculator there is in the forums of LNL Research, which you will find as brainforth.org. That's their website for their forum, which has been active for a long time, decades already, probably. I don't know how long, but I know I find posts from 2005 or from the early stages of the internet. So there's somebody who created a calculator where you can plot your graph, and you can see where you are right now. I plotted one that is of interest to me, especially for this video, so I'll tell you more about that and I'll show it to you. But so all that matters at this point, especially for this question, is that we know that there are cycles and that they affect ourselves, and they are of the physical, the emotional, the intelligence, and the adept. If you can see here, there is a relationship between physical and emotional, and then intelligence and adept or spiritual. So there is mind, body, and spirit. The emotional being part of the mind, of course. Reactivity from the interaction between the mind and the physical, or the mind and the possible separation of self and other self. So yeah, I wish I could talk more about this, but I don't. I'm sure there are smarter people than me that could track or relate the cosmic patterns and how they affect us in different ways. Not only for the cycles, but because of also what Ra said of the other influences. That there are, when they say, there are in addition more cosmic and less regularized inpourings. So these are not regularized, just like the cycles. So they may happen from time to time. I don't know. Maybe in my scientific mind, something like a supernova, that could be something, that it's not regularized and it just happens and it affects us. Or something as subtle as just the movement of dust particles, or asteroids around, or comets and so on. All of these were supposedly tracked by astrologers. That word just sounded weird in my head. And the whole deal about the comets bringing doom to humanity. I'm sure they had an effect, not doom, but who knows? I don't indulge in that type of information. But this is reality. Now, what I wanted to bring, let me see, is it here? Yeah, let's read the next question, and then I'll give you my full take on the cycles. So, in the next question, Don says, would it be helpful to plot the cycles for the instrument and attempt to have these sessions at the most favorable points with respect to the cycle? And so Ra says, to that specific query, we have no response. It may be noted that the 3 in this triad bring in this energy pattern, which is Ra. Oh, I love this. I just love that. This is going to merge perfectly with my conclusion. Thus, each energy input of the triad is of note. We may say that while these information systems are interesting, they are in sway only insofar as the entity or entities involved have not made totally efficient use of catalyst, and therefore, instead of accepting the, shall we say, negative or retrograde moments or periods without undue notice, have the distortion towards the retaining of these distortions in order to work out the unused catalyst. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to stop here because then there is, let me see. Okay, yeah. Okay. So, where do I begin? Don wants to know first if it would be helpful to plot the cycles. So, because they said that, this is affecting Carla, that she's not, the current energy was not proper for her, not favorable for her physical complex because of her cycle. So Don says if it's helpful, to program the cycles. Now, this is something that Don has asked in the past, should we delay further the sessions? Should we not? What do we do? And Ra has already given a lot of information about that. But right now, what it's interesting is that Ra says, to your question, we have no response. Basically, that they don't even say, this will abridge or will infringe upon free will. They don't even say that. They just say that they have no response to this. I suppose that's, at the least up to Don to do it, but they don't even want to mention anything as to not influence his decision or their decision. But then they go and say, it may be noted that the 3 in this triad bring in this energy pattern, which is Ra. Now, notice how they call themselves energy pattern. They are an energy pattern. They're not even, they're not an entity. They have stated this in subtle ways in the past. They're not an entity as like something that exists. They are they are a unit, an individual being somehow, somewhere, but rather they are an energy pattern that is Ra. And this is just beautiful because I'm going to connect it with something else. But in any case, just to put to rest the whole cycle thing, they also remind that for further complication, actually not further complication, but because of the question that Don asked about doing a session is bringing in Ra, right? They're channeling Ra. And so they say that for this, each energy input of the triad is of note. We may say that while these information systems are interesting, they are in sway only insofar as the entity has basically not made full use of Catalyst. So first, to channel Ra is not only Carla, but Jim and Don. There are 3 cycles, actually there are 12 cycles. They're all working together to bring Ra. And if anything, so that's how complex it becomes, I guess, because they work as one, and that's something that they say in the next slide. But just to keep up with this, the cycles themselves, we can get caught on with the cycle, and if you plot yourself, I'm leaving it for you to play with this if you want to. I personally don't get hung up on, I'm going to check how I feel today. It must be related because of the cycle of this, because you let those things influence you more than they should. Mostly your own capacity to deal with distortions, and that's really what we're going to get into here, especially in this question. So yeah, I just wouldn't worry too much about the cycles where they are, and I feel this way or that way. It's funny because today as I put my numbers, since I was checking, I said, let me check my numbers, and it says that my physical energy is at 100%. So I'm at the peak of my possible, physical performance. And I just can't tell you the difference. I honestly can't tell you the difference of how, I feel at the peak or at the bottom of it, at the nadir of it. So in any case, I just wouldn't care too much, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But with Carla is what really had me questioning, why was she having low physical? Because let me show you the graph. I took the liberty to plot in Carla's date of birth, which is July 16, 1943, and then the day of the session, which was on July 8, which is what you see in the crosshair. That's the day, right? July 18. And then there is all the cycles, as you can see. They're in different colors. And you can see that her physical was actually coming up. You can see there is the vertical, or the y-axis here, is percentage. The 100%, there is the 0%, which is the X in this graph here, and the X-axis, and you can see that her physical was actually coming up from the negative, and it was reaching probably 80 something percent, something like that. I can't see from here, but I don't know why her physical was being unfavorable by this cycle. Now, yes, her adept cycle, which is the purple there, her adept cycle was going down. Sure, it was almost at the bottom in the negative. And then the other ones were coming down as well, but these are not to be noted unless they are intersecting the 0 point at the same time. And none of these happened. Actually, they happened in, if you can see, on the 26th. All but the physical were going up. And again, I'm not an expert in studying these graphs and how they affect you, and all of this, but I do have one clue. And in any case, what I'm really puzzled is as to why Ra said that her physical was not favorable because of one of the cycles where the physical was going up. So again, somebody else who's smarter than me in this respect can actually chime in and say why. So far, I don't know. Now, moving on to why I think these are not important in general. I just covered, if you haven't listened to that podcast, I recommend you do, because I covered Kuo as an introductory podcast to them, because we do have a lot of channel information from Kuo, from the people in NLL research. And there's a part in this podcast which really fascinated me, where they talk about the, should I call it metaphysical? Yeah, they actually call it metaphysical astrology, which is the makeup of your mind. Your mind is configured in a way. That's the astrology of your mind. And then there is the physical astrology that we see, and then when somebody plots your chart, your I forgot how they say it in English, but it's it just abandoned me. Your astrology chart, I think it's called, when you do your whole birth and you see the whole thing. All of that is a snapshot of your mind. But your mind it's not like it's fixed and it's going to be this way. It's always malleable. And insofar as it relates to how things are going to affect you, it's really about the unmanifested self, on how you are living your life in accordance to that which you are, that which is being manifested, that which wants to be created here, manifested. And so why do I think these are not that important? Because in any case, they're just showing you how sensitive you are to certain things, physically, emotionally, and so on. And so they're only showing you that in relation to the catalyst, as Ra is saying here. This is why I love when Ra says that, first of all, just to cover that part, you see the energy pattern that is Ra is channeled by them because they have a strong seeking towards that information which Ra can offer. And Ra is simply an energy pattern that is very close to the one. They are in almost unity at this point. And so they are bringing this through the channel that is Carla, because she also has this configuration in her mind to bring it in. So I love that part. And that, again, if you want to learn a little bit more about how this is configured in the mind, has to do with the cosmic Christ consciousness. It's beautiful. Go watch or listen to that podcast, which is the introduction to Kuo. I'll see if I can leave a link here, but you can go listen to it in Spotify, iTunes, and so on. But in any case, let me go on with this. With the important part as to why they say, see, when they mention that these information systems are interesting. Let me just read it. While these information systems are interesting, they are in sway only insofar as the entity or entities involved have not made totally efficient use of catalyst. Therefore, instead of accepting the, shall we say, negative or retrograde moments or periods without undue notice, have the distortion towards retaining of these distortions in order to work out the unused catalyst. So let me resume this easily to the following. These systems are only important or they affect you. They affect you only if you have unused catalyst. If whatever's in your life you haven't accepted, then of course this is going to intensify that. So if you're dealing with emotional pain of some sort, and you feel or you see that in your weakest moment, at the lowest part of the graph in your emotional cycle, you're feeling it more strong, that doesn't mean that you're always going to suffer from that emotion, but rather that that emotion is present there because you have unused catalyst. And so it doesn't matter where you are in the cycle, it's only that at the lowest portion, you may be invited to a more intense feeling or living of this catalyst. And so you're, let's say, weaker to your own distortion of, like Ross says, retaining these distortions. Too much distortion use. If you have the inclination to retain a certain emotion, to not let go of something, of not accepting something, then this will obviously keep coming to your life. This catalyst will cyclically come back to you. And so you see, these cycles, in any case, are just increasing the possibility or increasing and decreasing sensitivity in one way for certain catalysts, and allowing you also to work in one way or another with it. So I don't think, these are important to the extent that, I'm going to wait for this moment to work my catalyst or work through my emotions in one way or another. I just think they are the sensitivities that we have based on the cycles that simply we're running through. And so I wouldn't get hung up on this. I think it's interesting, but the most important thing, knowing what we know about this philosophy, is to just accept the catalyst that is coming, period. So I know I went on a rant, possibly not very enlightening, but I had to say it. So they finish up this question by saying, it is to be noted that psychic attack continues upon this entity, although it is only effective at this time in physical distortions towards discomfort. We may suggest that it is always of some interest to observe the roadmap, both of the cycles and of the planetary and other cosmic influences, in that one may see certain wide roads or possibilities. However, we remind that this group is a unit. So, finally, Carla is under psychic attack. So this is just affecting her physical distortions. So it's not affecting something else because they just couldn't do anything. This entity of fifth density couldn't do anything else to Carla but just affect her arthritis and other weaknesses that she had in her body. And then they also suggest that it is always of some interest to observe the roadmap, because sure, if you can look at it and see both, they say both of the cycles and of the planetary, and other cosmic influences, in that one may see certain wide roads or possibilities. So if you can see, for example, which you see a lot of in the spiritual communities and the New Age astrology and so on, this Mercury retrograde, how does that affect you and all of that? There is certainly something very influential there, but it's not like some people say, I gotta be prepared for all the demise and doom that is gonna happen because Mercury is retrograde. But rather, what is this showing me of my dark side? What is this showing me that I haven't worked yet? And it's a blessing in disguise, because you may see it, of course, as we all know, we see some tragic or some apparent tragic happen to us. And so that this tragic or this tragedy is always at the moment. And the thing is, are you going to get hung up on the tragedy and become the victim? Or are you going to transcend the tragedy and say, well, I may not feel very well right now, but I know that this is going to bring me something beautiful in the future. Because all things change. All things are bringing out something new. And so this is how I would see these cycles and planetary and cosmic influences, rather than we being victims of the universe always, affecting us. So it's always good to be mindful of, how you feel. Without all the complexity that this may evoke, it's only important just to see, how do I feel? What things are coming that I haven't noticed? The best way to bring the unmanifested self, which is really what's trying to grow out here, is meditation. In meditation, you can spot those things that you feel, oh, this thing has been coming over and over. My mind just keeps revolving around this issue. Let me explore it further and continue to go in that direction. So this is, to me, much more important. The use of these two things, of the revolutions of your mind and also of the cycles and other influences, sure, they're there for a reason, and it's not like they're unuseful, but rather that we need to include a lot more, I believe, or at least I do, our own mental and our own universe, the story that is playing in our minds. We need to include it a lot more into what's happening outside. So that's how I'll finish this whole topic of the cycles and so on. Don says, is there some way that we could, as a unit, then do something to reduce the effect of the psychic attack on the instrument and optimize the communicative opportunity? It's question 5. And Ra says, we have given you the information concerning that which aids this particular mind-body-spirit complex. We can speak no further. It is our opinion, which we humbly offer, that each is in remarkable harmony with each other, with each for this particular third density illusion at this space-time nexus. So, very good question about how can we reduce the psychic attack. Don has asked this question several times, and that's why Ra says we have given you the information concerning that which aids this particular mind-body-spirit complex, which is just enjoying life, basically, the way Carla used to enjoy life. And out of that, they can say nothing else, but they also say that, and repeat again, that they work in harmony. Speaking of the psychic attack for continuing the raw contact, it's the same thing of what Don asked about plotting, their sessions into the specific best times of the cycles. And I don't know how that was going to work, because that would take a long time, depending on their criteria. Are we going to wait until you're up in your adept, which is every 18 days? But also, if your physical is going down at the same time, it was going to be very hectic. So I don't know, that would add too much complexity. But the same question, or the same answer that Ra gave, is given here. You work as one. You have harmony. So don't worry about it. In essence, just keep doing what you love. So with this, we get to the most important question in this video, possibly in the whole session, but we will see. Don says in question 6, I want to ask a few questions Jim had here about the healing exercises. The first is, in the healing exercise concerning the body, what do you mean by the disciplines of the body having to do with the balance between love and wisdom in the use of the body in its natural functions? So here we go. This is something that was asked or talked about a long time ago, in the beginning of the contact. So, Ra says, we shall speak more briefly than usual due to this instrument's use of the transferred energy. We therefore request further queries if our reply is not sufficient. The body complex has natural functions. Many of these have to do with the unmanifested self and are normally not subject to the need for balancing. Okay. There are natural functions which have to do with the other self. Among these are touching, loving, the sexual life, and those times when the company of another is craved to combat the type of loneliness which is the natural function of the body, as opposed to those types of loneliness which are of the mind-emotion complex or of the spirit. So let's make the first pause here. We're going to talk about the physical natural functions of the body. And understanding this will bring about healing. Healing. What is healing? Is it healing my back pain? Yes. Is it healing my migraine? Very possibly. Is it healing my asthma? Maybe not. I don't know. Possibly. But talking about my particular asthma, I may believe this is something pre-incarnatively chosen. I don't know. But I digress. The point is that we're talking about healing. Healing actually means balancing your lower energy centers. Red, orange, yellow. And for that, Ra gives us the equivalence of the body's natural functions. So, what do they say? First of all, they say they will speak briefly, and they actually say a lot. They do say a lot here, which is good. So imagine if they would have been asked with more energy. So, yeah. What does Ra says? The body complex has natural functions. Okay, many of these have to do with the unmanifested self and are normally not subject to the need for balancing. So these natural functions of the unmanifested self, when they say the unmanifested self, the way I see it is that portion of ourselves that wants to come out, that wants to manifest here, that is almost like program. I don't want to use the word program because that implies that there is a programmer, but there is no programmer. There is just the, let's say a seed, or the oak is the unmanifested self of the acorn, if that makes sense. You see, there's no program. Nobody programmed that. It's just, it happened over time. And so the unmanifested self is in disregard for the body. Then, this is just how it grows. And many of these are not subject to balancing because they're just supposed to be like that. So, these are natural functions that are simply going to happen. Okay, so they don't need balancing. They say there are natural functions which have to do with other self. Now this is part of the interaction of the body. The reason why we have a body here is not just to grow and become a human, is to interact with other selves. Okay, and among these are touching, loving, the sexual life, and those times when the company of another is craved to combat the type of loneliness. I'll get to the loneliness part in a little bit, but these are all related to how we desire company. You see, touching is just a feeling, the knowing that somebody's there. Especially in these times, you can relate to this as how much we communicate via online. There is no touching. There is no physical. I would even extend this to conversations. You see, one of my gripes with technology so far, especially coming from my generation, I assume you are my generation or older, so you will understand. And if you're younger than me, you will understand as well, because you are part of this new era of simply sending a text message for important things. And I have seen that not because I am unwilling to adapt to technology. Obviously, I'm here using technology to communicate to other people in a way that I can't do it physically, so I think that's a huge thing. But you see, the lack of touching goes even to somebody who wants to tell you something. And I had to deal with this type of communication with somebody evading me, which was of immediate and urgent need for physical conversation, but she was avoiding me because she didn't want to deal with the emotional aspect of talking about money and relation of tenant to landlord. And that was just really uncomfortable for me, because all I wanted was a physical conversation. But it was all in the middle of a pandemic, and so many things involved. I learned a lot from that. But you see, there's a lot of that, and you can sense this need for physical conversation, and that relates to me as touching. Not just the touching as sensually, but just touching, sensing somebody, or even a hug. If you want to get to that degree of intimacy, hugging somebody, that is just something so ineffable. That is a need. That's a natural function of the body. The loving. Again, the loving doesn't have to be sensual, but just, the loving of somebody, just being in the presence of somebody and enjoying their unique energy and what they say, even if what they say is nasty or they're talking, in rage or whatever, you can feel them. That is a natural function as well of the body. And the sexual life is another one that in our particular planet and society has been repressed so much, and we have so many issues with the sexual life. But all of these are important. We'll get more into all of these as we go on with the slideshow. But Ra says that they also say that, okay, in those times when the company of another is craved to combat the type of loneliness, which is the natural function of the body, meaning that we want to be together with people. We want to share with other people. This is a natural function of the body. We want to do that, and sometimes we don't, and that's fine. That's part of the same principle of wanting to be with people and then not wanting to be with people. This will relate also to too much heart activation, too much or love and wisdom imbalance, and we'll explore that in a little bit. So this is as opposed to those types of loneliness which are of the spirit complex. So when you see somebody who is simply seeking solitude because he enjoys solitude, I have said in previous videos that I have always enjoyed my solitude, not because I was disgusted by some people, even though I have in the past. And I continue to see when those patterns are still coming out there and say, ugh, that person, and you say, why ugh? But no, my enjoyment of solitude has always been of one that I simply enjoy my own presence. I enjoy my own mind. I have a hard problem meditating sometimes because I just enjoy my own mind. I get entertained with my own mind. I just enjoy it. So, but I also enjoy the company of others. I've never been an introvert. In fact, I've always been categorized by others as an extrovert because I enjoy talking, as you can see, and I enjoy listening to people. It's just beautiful. And so, this is in contrast to the type of loneliness that is craved by somebody who needs the company of other, and that need or disgust is really what we're going to talk about in terms of balancing for healing. So if you seek solitude because you enjoy your own company, there is no balancing to do there. Don't worry, don't think you're weird because you want to go to the forest or to the beach alone and just be with yourself and you enjoy that. But if you're doing it because you want to avoid your family, your friends, your boyfriend, whatever, just then you see that there is an imbalance in you, that you can't deal with reality, so you're seeking, it's an escape mechanism, coping mechanism as well. So there's more to explore here, and you can see how excited I'm getting. Ra says, when these natural functions may be observed in the daily life, they may be examined in order that the love of self and love of other self versus the wisdom regarding the use of natural functions may be observed. There are many fantasies and stray thoughts which may be examined in most of your peoples in this balancing process. So, really important. All of these natural functions of the body may be observed in the daily life. Of course, if you are a I'm a little cautious of using the term spiritual seeker, but yeah, if you are somebody who simply wants to know yourself, you want to know yourself, okay? So you're here to know yourself, which is what the creator is doing. And guess what? You are the creator. Did I mention that? I'm sorry if I didn't. But welcome. You are the creator within the creation. So, if this is examined, right? And we see love and wisdom, basically, in balance here. Because they say, love of self and love of other self versus the wisdom regarding the use of natural functions may be observed when you do this. So love and wisdom may be balanced here in the same way that I mentioned of somebody seeking solitude. That's just because you love yourself, you're fine. Or the rejection, then there is an imbalance there. Or seeking company because you need company. Not because simply, oh, there is company, I will enjoy it. Somebody knock on my door, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm too busy, why you're coming here. That used to be me. Sometimes I would get too much in that. People would come visit and I would be like, visit. And that is just not accepting reality. On the other hand, there are people who crave company, that cannot be by themselves. They just feel fearful of being by themselves and they need to, somebody call me please, I need to text you, I need to go out and be with people, meet people. So all of these activities are fine. It's only when within the self there is a need or a rejection. And that is what it's being balanced here. Now, Ross says that there are many fantasies and stray thoughts which may be examined in most of your peoples. Now, fantasies, to me, and I think to the majority of us, especially when talking about physical needs or bodily functions, are strongly related with sexual fantasies. But this can also be related to the fantasy of being alone. Oh, I fantasize with just being away from all of this. Okay, I'm just using extremes of, obviously, the unbalanced self. And or there could be the fantasy of wanting to be with more people. These fantasies that are just happening in our mind. These are all signs. Stray thoughts as well that simply come by. And you say, well, where did that come from? This is especially true in the sexual department, because we do have those sexual thoughts that just come out of nowhere. And you're like, okay, well, that's there. But why is it there? What is it producing it at a subconscious level that you're not aware of? So go deep inside, see what's happening. There's so many ways in which we can inquire about this, and I think the sexual thought deserves a little bit of an analysis here, because a sexual thought is something that arises and you feel a need. So you analyze it and you say, okay, why do I feel the need? What is the pattern that is creating that? That I see something sensual in a man or in a woman, and that created some sort of physical excitement, and that I associate with the need to engage in sexual activity, or simply I relate it to the sexual activity. And how can I love that? How can I appreciate it? Most of us are rejecting those things because we say, oh, that's just awful. How can I think about that? Or, for whatever reason, we just have biases and, problems with our sexual fantasies, as opposed to seeing where's the beauty in there? Why am I rejecting it? Why am I repressing it? And it's just a matter of, you don't have to go and do physical acts or look for people to engage in these sexual fantasies, but just simply understand yourself. Why are these coming up? How can I accept them and love them and just look at them? I do this all the time, and I just I observe them and I try to see where is it coming from, and if I can't find it, I just accept it and love it and say, that's just beautiful. I had that thought. That's it. We have too much repression in that regard. But also in, seeking the solitude that I was talking about before, as well as being afraid of being with people. Oh, I'm such an introvert. I'm afraid of being with people. Why? Why is that? Be honest with yourself. There's nothing wrong with just simply being completely. I just love my solitude. I'm not seeking it. It's just there, and I enjoy it. But yeah, being afraid of other people, you may have something to work there. In the same way, being in love with the company of other people because you're afraid of being alone. Another thing, speaking of sexual thoughts, I need to mention asexual people. Some asexual people feel like they have a problem sometimes, but this is not true in my view. I don't believe this is something that it's needed. Again, this is just my opinion. I have known people who are asexual and they enjoy a freedom and a liberty to do so many things. It's not because they're repressing it. They actually felt pushed to be in a relationship, sexual relationship with people, and they just didn't feel that way. They felt more unaligned with themselves because they were pushed by society to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they just simply didn't feel it when they were in the relationship. It was so like, I just don't know what to do, and I don't feel, they felt love for the other person, but they just didn't feel, the need for it. And that's totally fine. If it's the same thing as the solitude person who simply enjoys, it's not the same, the sage in the forest, as the hermit who hates society, the misanthropist. So why do we care, for people like that? And if you're asexual, don't think that there's anything wrong, unless you are traumatized by some sexual abuse and that needs healing. So you can actually choose and say, well, now that I've healed my sexual abuse, which is very common, now I can enjoy sexuality or not enjoy it, simply because now I can see it without distortion. So let's go on, because I could continue talking about this for a while. So Ra says, equally to be balanced is the withdrawal from the need for these natural functions with regard to other self, as I explained already. On the one hand, there is an excess of love. It must be determined whether this is love of self or other self, or both. On the other hand, there is an overbalance towards wisdom. So, in essence, this is everything that I was talking about. You can see from Ra's words here that to be balanced is the withdrawal. I guess they didn't talk about this. I just kept talking myself. But this is exactly what it is, On the one hand, there is the excess of love. Again, I love being with people. I just love being with people. And then on the other hand, there is an overbalance towards wisdom, of not, of rejecting and just, being by myself, or restraining from sexual activities because this is the most appropriate way of dealing with and repressing yourself. You repress some of the loving needs that you have because you have an overbalance of wisdom, or you are unaware of the wisdom that can be applied for you to enjoy the company of others and enjoy your own company. So let's go on. This is the last part of Ra's answer, and they say, it is well to know the body complex so that it is an ally, balanced and ready to be clearly used as a tool. For each bodily function may be used in higher and higher, if you will, complexes of energy with other self. No matter what the behavior, the important balancing is the understanding of each interaction on this level with other selves, so that whether the balance may be love-wisdom or wisdom-love, the other self is seen by the self in a balanced configuration, and the self is, thus, freed from further work. Beautiful way to end this. So, let's go line by line. It is well to know the body complex so that it is an ally. You want to have your body as an ally, a tool, an instrument, like they say, a tool to balance yourself, because you are not the body, remember. And the mind, you're not the mind either, but the body and the mind are working together to balance this oneself, this unmanifested self that is being radiating here in the creation. And so you use the body and the mind in this way to develop, to evolve yourself with the interaction of other selves. And so for each bodily function may be used in higher and higher complexes of energy with other self. Of course, let's take interaction with each other. I want company because I just don't want to feel alone. That sounds to me like orange ray. Okay, you want the proximity of the pack. Then you say, well, I want company because I want to interact with other people, just exchange information, just be, realize that there are other people just like me. That sounds like yellow ray. So once you go up, you have a different type of interaction. This is what they're talking about here. Now you say, I'm interested in seeing the loving part of people. I'm open to them. That's just green ray. So each interaction, you see, there's a word they use here. No matter what the behavior, the important balancing is the understanding of each interaction on this level with other selves. That is the important part. And so you can keep working. Then, from love to wisdom to how I can recognize yourself as an other creator, because now you have been through the heart, and through the heart you can just see that everything is the creation, or you are the creation, or everything is the creator. There is just one being here, one organism. And so how can I see you and respect you and accept you as another creator besides our differences? This is wisdom-based interaction. And then, of course, in the sense of unity, which is just the mystical experience, the magical view of the universe, this interaction is also possible, and to see in that with others. I think this is mostly manifested with art, when we see that part of the other self in manifestation. Like, you see their minds. It's like you're living through their minds, and so on. So this is what's really important. And there's more that they say here. So that whether the balance may be love wisdom or wisdom love, as I explained already, the other self is seen by the self, so the other person is seen by yourself in a balanced configuration. If you can see everybody in the world as balanced, then there is no other work that you need to be done. Because you see, when you say, well, that person needs a lot of love, that person needs to open their heart, or that person could use a little bit more of grounding, or that person, all this judging is just judging of yourself. So while you are unbalanced, other people will remain unbalanced. When you are balanced, then everybody will be balanced. And that's why everybody's perfect, in essence. And if everybody's perfect, then you are perfect already the way you are. It's just accepting that. So you see, most of the work that we do is a disassociation with our shadow. Because a shadow is not tangible. A shadow is not measurable. It's not form of anything. It is simply the shading of the light. It's the hiding of the light. That's all there is. And so we have been associating ourselves with a lot of our shadows. And so naturally, when we try to grasp something with a shadow, what happens? You can't grab it. You can't hold on to anything with a shadow. A shadow is simply an illusion. It's a projection of yourself, but it's not yourself. And so when we do this, and we deal with the shadow of ourselves, then we reveal the self. So it's almost like Plato's cave. That allegory can be used indefinitely. But yeah, in Plato's cave, they're just looking at the shadows. They're just staring at the shadows and saying, "Ooh, what a nice reality that is." And this is what we do. So as long as we feel unbalanced, it's because we are still associating ourselves with the shadow. So when you do this, then you're free for further work. You see, you're not attached to any form of how things should be. So this was just perfect. Conclusions, because we are at the end of this video, and I covered this last part, I think, extensively. I will just enlarge a little bit. I think this is the first time where the conclusion actually is related to, or my conclusion is related to this last part that I just talked about. But I want to bring the biorhythms again. I invite you to take a look. You're gonna have to. I'm sure that all of you are going to click on that link in the description and say, I'm going to check how I feel today emotionally. So go do it. Go get it off your mind. Have fun with it. Again, this can be helpful. I just don't think we should be attached to that, and say, I'm going to do spiritual work now that I'm reaching. This is why Ross said, we're not going to say anything about this. Because I don't think we should let those things guide our life. Our life is simply something that is lived from moment to moment, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how Jupiter or Mercury is, and how the sun has a solar flare, and all of this. Great, all of this is there. The portal of February 22nd on 2022. Did you feel it? Did you went through it? What did you found? And blah blah blah. Well, the only thing to be found is the self, and the self is always there. So we don't need any of this to keep exploring our own nature, our true nature. And this is why I believe the Buddha never talked about astrology or metaphysics for that effect. He was simply silent when asked about these questions because he didn't want to contribute to more of this external looking as opposed to the internal one. But I must admit that all of these things are real, and they do have an influence, and they do have a mechanic. But the self is not a mechanic. The self is not something that is bound to your astrology chart, or that is bound to the movements of the sun and the planets and the galaxies and so on. The self is infinite. You are infinite. So why restrain yourself? Why limit yourself with another piece of information or mechanics about the universe? I say simply live, enjoy, explore yourself, love others, base everything in love, yourself and others, and you'll be fine. I come to the end of this video. Second part is going to deal with more of the healing. So the second question that Don has is about how feelings affect portions of the body and the sensation of the body. We're gonna get to all of that in the next part. I appreciate you. I love you. Oh, I wanted to say something really quick before I end up the recording, and is that today I woke up very grateful of being able to do this. Anything, just being alive. I was meditating, and I simply felt the joy of just simply being. I mean, there's no agenda, there's no desire, there's no goal, purpose. It's just the purpose is to be alive. And to me, it was just that. And then I said, anything extra that I do is an overabundance of bliss. And I thought about recording today, and I said, I'm very grateful just to do the recording. And the fact that you are listening and watching, possibly, it's such an honor, from a micro universe to another micro universe. It's really an honor. So I appreciate that. I love you for that. And I just wanted to know that everything is love. And just like everything is light, and the illusion of the shadow is simply the hiding of the light, the shading of the light. In the same way, everything is love, and anything else that we don't see as love is simply the shadowing of love. It's the hiding of love. So yeah, take that, chew on that one, and let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe if you haven't. I thank you, I love you, I appreciate you in my heart. I'll see you in part 2 of session 61.